Thanks for participating, y'all. I do have a question about the GEPA, and this has come up, with Gear Up actually. So this is perfect timing. We are reworking those GEPA statements. Okay, GEPA. That is an additional form that has to be uploaded as part of the application packet. It is not, no points are awarded to it. But, since we're kind of super worried about our language and, what terms that we have utilized in the past, specific to the GEPA statement, which is talking about, equal access to services, things like that. We used to put it in our proposal. I still mention GEPA very briefly in the narrative, but for years and years and years, we've had to upload a separate, as part of the overall application, a GEPA form that basically was from your institution, your agency, saying how they would adhere to that, providing students with equal access to services, basically. So back in the day, we could use the same GEPA statement for any grant we were asking for from the Department of Ed. We didn't have to customize it. Well, now we have to customize it per project. So in the Google Drive, you will see that there's a folder that says GEPA. And I would not start working on this until the details until after you've got your proposal done, because you'll have to refer to it very briefly and not a lot. It's not a CPP. It doesn't get scored. I don't know if anyone's actually going to read it and make the connection to your proposal, but it's a form that has to be developed and it has to be slightly customized. But you can't customize it perfectly yet until you've gone ahead and have most of your draft done of your proposal so you can refer to it. But go ahead and check it out. Go into that Google Drive, open that up, look at the 4 questions that are there. There are 4 questions, and we have a sample. Now, the sample that we gave you is before we had a chance to, like for Gear Up, before we had a chance to go back in there recently and reword it. Now, they didn't tell us to work on that. We went ahead and did that because I did realize there was some language in there that was not a problem before, but now it's questionable language. It's not going to get scored, but perhaps will be flagged. And we don't need any reason to get flagged. So I am going to upload, I'm going to remind myself to upload the revised version of the GEPA that takes out some of the trigger words that we shouldn't be probably using or focusing on from this point forward. So, the question is, I'm still nervous about what we should do about the GEPA statement. Don't be nervous about it. It's just think about, well, you know what? We used to have one blanket statement, for all our TRIO programs from our college. And now let me look at those 4 separate questions. If we have time, we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail, but this is begging for its own separate, hour webinar on just how to deal with GEPA. There are some links in there on what GEPA is about. It talks about the 4 questions, and the more you expose yourself right now to what the questions are and look at what our possible answers are, and like I said I'd upload a revised one for Gear Up, the less you'll be nervous about it. And the more you'll think, oh, this is just like a table of contents, got to do it. And you can't finalize the table of contents until you have your narrative done, right? Because you got to make sure you're referring to the right pages. So the first question in GEPA is kind of a general overall question that you can glean from your existing GEPA and summarize that and put it as the answer to the first question. The second, third, and fourth question do require a customizing or making some connection to your proposal by simply stating that this is a Talent Search or EOC project and making those connections and bringing up some things from your needs section very briefly. It's not going to be scored, but just answer the question. It's asking for what barriers your students may have. Well, the needs section's got some barriers. And then it asks, the third question is, what are y'all going to do to try to eliminate those barriers? And again, there's a specific way now to answer it. I mean, answer like you always have, but then take it through something to look for trigger words so that you can make sure that you don't have any of those trigger words. And then the last question asks for a timeline, which is kind of weird. It's like, what do you mean a timeline? Well, sort of like in our plan of operation, we talk about the plan to inform the community about, or the students or the target area about the project. There's always a timeline. Like, does this happen right away when the grant award is announced, or a particular time, or both? Okay. Don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, but do be aware of it And just knowing that it's a plus that you're nervous about it, because at least you know about it, right? You know it's going to be a little bit different. Imagine if you are cutting it close, getting everything together, and you go to upload, and all of a sudden there's like, what the heckity heck? What? Let's just upload our old GEPA form. Nope, no can do. Okay, let's just copy and paste. Nope, no can do. What you don't want to do is at the 11th hour be scrambling around to put something together that you can start doing as soon as you get your, I would say, your plan of operation pretty much settled. Then you can draft it. Then you can start answering questions 2, 3, and 4. You can go ahead and answer question number 1 now. But I made myself a note that as soon as I can, I will upload the revised GEPA statement for Gear Up. You know, just to give you an example, so you can, and also I did upload those, the Gear Up put out a list of words to be aware of, to be, you know, watch out for. And so that's kind of the same document we use to cross-reference and check with that. But don't be nervous about it. Know about it and know that you've got to do a little something different, and you don't want to do it the last minute. Okay, so let's see if we have any other questions so far. Oh, Dave, I'm so jealous. It's 65 degrees in pickleball. Oh, that would be awesome. I got to come out there. Okay. 68, there's Washington, yay. Okay, so can we use local data from a community college instead of national stats to show need? Well, again, yes, for certain things, if you are, well, everyone here is for EOC or Talent Search. So when it comes to both EOC and Talent Search in the areas of the percentage of people that are applying for enrollment, you could, that's a hard one to you know, to get as a baseline. So you could say, well, it's been our experience here at this college, this percentage of people in the target area apply to this college or apply for financial aid. You could possibly use it that way, or on enrollment from the target schools. So for this college, you know, and again, you have to be very careful and make sure that you're not recruiting for your college, but of the students that do attend your college, what percentage of them came from the target schools? So possibly you could get, you could use that as baseline, you know, to show, or to show the need compared to in other areas. So I want to say, don't you hate it? Yes, yes and no. It depends. But, you know, do I want to use that for the percentage of low income families in the area and reduced, you know, people that are on social services? No. So for the main 2 questions that deal with the census, you want to stick to the census. And then possibly when you're trying to show need in academic areas like enrollment, or like, especially for EOC, it's very hard to find, because we have an objective that says, you know, a certain percentage of our college ready participants will apply for admissions, a certain percentage will apply for financial aid. Well, that's kind of hard to find that rate. So if you could glean from it, from of the students that have are attending or tried, or the people in your target area that attend your college, maybe you can get that data from there. Also, there could be some departments on campus that are dealing with Career and Workforce Center, and possibly for EOC, they can help a lot in that area as well, to give you that data, or even give you quotes, qualitative quotes from the professionals that are working there. So I would say yes, depending on what type of, where the need section you're talking to. But I could not say, oh yeah, stick to the community college to get all your data. No, that won't work. Okay. Oh yeah, Ohio 92. I'm right there with you. Abilene 86. Yeah, that's a balmy 86, I would say. Gayla, nice to see you. I was just talking about you to somebody. It's all good, of course. All right, so I answered that live. What about this here? Would including FAFSA completion rates help make our need argument stronger? Well, for EOC, you definitely need that. Not only would it make your argument stronger, but that's one of the required baseline points that you have to get for EOC, because one of our objectives is how many individuals in the target area that are college ready complete a FAFSA. So yes, you need to get that, and it needs to show that in the target area, that rate is lower when you compare it to something else, just to another entity, whether it's the the state or the national rate. Again, these are tough things to try to, we're struggling to find that perfect comparison. So it might be apples to oranges, but make the case for it, make the case. So yes, EOC, you have to figure out what is the FAFSA completion rate for your target area. And it must show need when compared to state or national stats. That's for EOC. For Talent Search, it can also help your case. It could be one of those additional need nuggets of need that we can put toward the in the last question in your needs section as other unaddressed academic and socioeconomic issues. But definitely for EOC, that's a deal breaker if you cannot find that, right? So anybody, and if anybody out there wants to share in the chat how they're able to find that for their target area. Okay, and we do have the link to the Google Drive. So that's great. So we got that going on. All right, and again, please share with y'all, some of y'all, where do some of y'all get your FAFSA completion rates for the target area? Sometimes we have to look at community reports, community assessments, or maybe I have to say, well, you know, here at our targets at the college, we can go by the rate that apply for financial aid that live in the target area. You know, can you backtrack and find out where people are coming from that apply for admissions and financial aid? And just say, you know, basically, or at least here, this is what we're seeing for students, because it'd be hard to figure out what it is for all the colleges in your area. Okay, so that's tough. That's one of the reasons why the data collection for EOC, I think, is the hardest data collection to collect. I think SSS and McNair are much easier because that's using institutional data. You don't have to worry about any census or any community data. Talent Search, yeah, we do have to use mainly, you know, just a little bit of census and a lot of school data that's out there. But EOC, I mean, trying to find the baseline for the percentage of folks that apply for admissions and the percentage of folks that apply for financial aid in the target area is tough. Can't they go to the high schools to see FAFSA completion rates? Because in Texas, it's a requirement to graduate or they have to sign a waiver saying that they aren't going to do it. So they could go back to, yeah, Gayla, that's a good point. They can go back to the target schools, target high schools that are in the area, in the target area, and find out if they'll, you know, answer the question. If the counselors there can tell them what percentage, I guess, of seniors graduating apply for financial aid. Okay. Or maybe you can find that from your target schools. I know for Talent Search, we could probably find it. And maybe that's as good as it gets for EOC, but that's, again, EOC is adults. So you would think it'd be much lower for the adults than it is for the right, you know, in high school. So keep that in mind, but sometimes something is better than not having any baseline, right? But that might be a higher inflated rate because they're already in school and they probably have someone helping them right away, you know, versus all the adults in the target area. So it might be very high for the high school students. And that means if you have to use that, and you'd have to set your objective on what you do with these adults to be higher than that. So, you know, it may get you funded because you had the baseline and you were able to show a need. But then when you actually get into doing the services, keep in mind that that objective would have been based on a different focus of students that are younger, but sometimes that's what you have to use. It's better than nothing, that's for sure. So check that out, and that takes some time to do that. Again, keep in mind that it you know, Talent Search does not have an objective for it, but it is a good need, you know, place to show need if it's a lower rate. But EOC needs to use that baseline. And so the question is, where do I get it from? So going to the target high schools in the area, or even the GED centers as well. I would think if you could get it from the GED centers, it might be a little bit more appropriate to the group of the type of clients in EOC we're looking for, which are adults. So you might think of it that way. All this takes time. So you need to start looking and searching to see, does this work? Does this work? Look at the definitions, go to your state education agency, and also for Talent Search, your state's higher education coordinating board, or something, you know, maybe called something different. Texas, that's what it's called, and they handle all the college stuff. But even though you know, and they could have some of that information too, at least for the state. And then I always think, well, if they got it for the state, the percentage of people that complete a FAFSA, even if they're graduating 12th graders, then how do they pull it for the areas? You know, how to deconstruct it? How, you know, who do I talk to that gathered it for the whole state? Because to get to the state rate, they had to do it for each, you know, area. I want the area so I can compare to the state. It's always, you know, they always got the state rate, the state rate. I'm like, I want it backwards. I want it just for this area or this high school. So someone said, we got the FAFSA completion rate for our target schools from the state grant representative. Okay, from the state grant, you mean with the Department of Education for the state or someone that works at the high school? Eileen, if you could clarify that for me. From the state grant representative, or there's a state grant, I guess, that students are applying to. And again, remember, for talent search, that may work. EOC, it might be a little too high, but that's, you may have to use that. Thanks, Eileen. If you can give me some more information about that, that would be great. One of our 2 high schools does not offer AP or IB, but they do offer college and the high school, which is not quite as rigorous as AP or IB. Many juniors and seniors participate in this and pass their courses. Should I mention this in the rigorous studies section or just say the school does not offer AP or IB? Okay, great. So let's make sure that we clearly, I think I know what you mean, but we want to make sure that number one, the reader knows which one of the 6 definitions are you going to use for rigorous secondary school program of study. I believe this is the IB and AP are 2 separate. They're 2 of the 6. So which one are you going to which one are you going to use? Which one are you going to say is your definition? Concurrently enrolled, right? It says, let's see, IB, but they do offer college and high school. So I'm guessing, again, that means concurrently enrolled. Concurrent enrollment in high school and college is not one of the 6 definitions directly listed. Okay, so you really can't, you cannot say that's your definition, that concurrently enrolled. But there's a definition on, okay, so juniors scoring 3 or higher in 2 RP classes. Okay, but again, we're talking about these are 2 separate definitions. The last definition, number 6, is about students that take 3 or more and they score a 2 or higher in at least 2 of those classes. IB is in a different category. I don't have it here listed. I don't know, Teresa, if you can look it up and see, but I believe IB is a different definition. So which one are you going to utilize? 2 of our high schools do not offer AP or IB, but that means the other schools do. So you can't say that across the board they don't offer either one. I would recommend, is there another definition, like definition number 2, which states this is what the state says is an honors program. If you can look into definition 2 of the rigorous, oh, Teresa's back. Teresa, when you get a chance, could you look up in the talent search regulations, the 6 definitions to the rigorous secondary school program of study, and let me know when you have those and we might share them. Because I think, Dave, what you have is some of your schools are going across more than 1 and possibly 3 definitions. So you might want to pick the one definition that is not offered at any of the schools. So definition number 2 is where I think that maybe, depending on your state and whatever your state says is an honors program, maybe concurrent enrollment is mentioned there. Maybe not.
I'll pull it up.
Okay. You have it? Or you'll pull it up. Let me know.
Okay.
So this is a complicated question in the sense that, see all the questions I'm asking you, because I'm trying to make it work for you, because in your response here, the AP definition is different from the IB definition. So we have to figure out which one you're going to utilize or what's going on at your schools, which one of the 6 definitions is not offered at all, which is probably what I would recommend you claim to show the need. But then the issue is, well, then how are you going to be able to try to meet or provide this objective? So we'll circle back to that. I don't want to leave you hanging. And that actually would be something that, thanks, Eileen, that I would love to talk to you about in more detail, because that's a complex thing, because it looks like across the board, depending on how many target schools you have as well, we want to make sure to not confuse the reader and to pick the definition that will be a combination of providing you with need, but also later on making sure it can happen. And I want you to be able to correctly choose the right definition, because concurrently enrollment right now does not offer that directly as a definition, as one of the definitions. Okay, so let's see here. So we'll circle back to that, Dave. I'll leave that unanswered so I can remember to look at that. Okay, anyone else have any other questions? Here's something else. Should we include professional development and training plans for staff in the proposal, or is this optional? You know what, that would be great, but most of our, if you can afford it, if you want to put just $1,000 down under professional development, and you can put in parentheses, database training, legs and regs training, whatever in parentheses, if you can afford it. Okay, usually if you're going for new funding, or if the budget's really tight right now and you have to put in increases in salary, which increases your fringe, and you have to make it look like everybody's already in place and will be there for the whole year, a lot of times that other category shrinks down to like barely have anything in it. But you will have, like right now when you're working on your budgets right now, you're probably going to have some carryover, so you can put carryover funds in other, and that's what we live off of, carryover funds. But it's not going to be, you won't be scored a lower because you couldn't afford any professional development. Okay, and when you get funded, everyone has to do a new budget anyway. They won't accept the one that's in the grant. You can say, well, I just did one a couple, 8 months ago. Don't you want to use that? No, you need to give me another budget. They're not going to look at that. So that's your opportunity to see if you have any funds that you can put there, or at least put in a line item for it. So, and put a little bit of money in there. And so you can always put money in that category, but it's an allowable expense. It's in your regulations for both Talent Search and EOC, that professional development is allowable cost. So even if it's not in your proposal budget, even if it's not in your annual budget, it's an allowable cost as long as it's reasonable. Okay, but you won't lose anything out if you don't have that. Okay, let's see, anybody else? And Teresa, just let me know when you'd like to share your screen. I don't know if you can share anything, but I wanted to look at those definitions just to remind people these definitions are a pain. You really, and we're going round and round with our clients, and a lot of us may have been using our own interpretation of what the definition was for the objective of meeting, having graduated with a regular diploma, having completed a rigorous secondary school program of study, because that's what we were told. That's what we were going off of. But really, there is specific definition, and you want to make sure that you're completely clear in your proposal, and that should be carried over to when you look at the objectives every year to see on your APR if you've met your objectives. Will they possibly give us a higher GAN than what we write for, since we're looking at 4 years with the same money? You mean for this year, next? I know, I don't anticipate. I think we'll be at level funding, so I don't anticipate any higher GAN. I anticipate whatever you're getting today minus carryover, what you were supposed to, forget carryover, whatever you were supposed to get for 24, 25. Imagine that's what you're going to get. I would plan on saying that's what I'm getting for 25, 26, and that will also be my first year budget for 26, 27.
Okay, Lisa, I have it ready.
Thank you, my dear. Okay, so let me go ahead and let you share. Let me see, I'm gonna stop share. Okay, so here's the definitions right here, right on page, and you can also get them in the Talent Search regulations, but they're in the old, they haven't changed a bit. So this is in the grant application. It starts on page, is it on page 59 there,
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
You scroll up a little bit more. Oh, there they are. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, here it is. All right. And you can also find this in the Talent Search regulations, depending on the same wording. But the first one is this established by the state education agency or local education agency and recognized as a rigorous secondary school program of study by the secretary through the process of this academic competitiveness grant. I never hear about it anymore, but basically it's what the state turned in back in the 2008 era as to what they say is a rigorous secondary school program of study. And in Texas, what they did is they said, oh, regular is rigorous. Bam, we're covered. And we were like, okay, I guess that's great when we want to see how well we did on our objective. But when we're going to establish need, then there's no difference between the regular and rigorous. So we've got a problem. So that's why we've started using the second definition, which is an advanced or honors secondary school program established by the states. That is where possibly if we do a little bit of research, whatever your state says is an advanced or honors secondary school program may include mention of the concurrent enrollment in college, may include a combination of AP and IB. So maybe that's where you can say, okay, this is more appropriate for our target schools is if I say our definition is number 2. Okay, and then I can try to pull data on that and show a need. We have to show that that rate is it's got to be lower than the regular diploma, right? Because if you just get a regular diploma with no extra rigor, that should be much higher than the rate of students that are getting the regular diploma, but only after they've gone through an honors program. So this time around, I'm leaning more toward making, when it's appropriate, making definition number 2 work. Okay, and then that's what you have to use when you work on your APR, when you're looking at all your seniors every year to see what kind of, when they graduate, not only did they graduate with regular, but did they graduate completing the number 2 there, the definition for number 2. Number 3 is also broken down in that type, a listing of courses there that are listed there. Okay, and then 4 is I believe this Western Interstate situation, but 5 is where the IB comes up. See how IB is on its own, and then 6 separate is the advanced placement. So we need to simplify that. For those of you that are in a situation where it's all over the place, make it easy on yourself and on the reader. Which one of these definitions would be most appropriate, and say that, you know what, some schools have AP, IB. I may want to stay away from that and say, well, what is number 2, for the state? Does it include concurrent enrollment? Well, then I can say, yes, great, that'll be our standard or definition. And then hopefully I can show that, not all the schools are off, although the schools offer it, maybe they're not providing any additional support for it. So it's okay. Like in Texas, we're stuck, in the sense that a rigorous secondary school program of study by law is mandated at all our target schools, at all the schools. So I can't say, oh, so sad, we don't have any opportunity for our kids to have a rigorous secondary school program of study. But what I could say is, you know what, we've selected a definition that is more rigorous, which would be that honors program, on purpose to show a need, knowing that I'm going to struggle harder to meet that objective. But the question is that people have asked me, well, Lisa, if I use that more rigorous definition to show the need, then that means later on I'm going to have a headache once a year when I do my APR. We may not even meet that objective ever again. And I said, exactly. So do you want to lose points now for not being able to show need in the need section and in the objective section, which could be, 4 points, 5 points possibly total, if not more? Or do you want to not lose the points on your proposal, get refunded, and then struggle once a year and maybe lose 1.5 points of prior experience, because that's what that objective is worth, for 3 years out of the funding cycle, out of the 5-year funding cycle. So you want to die now or later? I'm always, let me die later. So I may purposely pick something here, knowing it's going to be a struggle later on, because I'm so concerned about making sure I don't lose points and I have to show the need here. Okay, so yes, that's a valid point. So this is a big deal. So please look at your regulations or look at page 59 in the program application and start thinking, what is going to be our definition for rigorous? And it can't be different at different schools. That'll really confuse a reader. So you got to find something that works across the board and shows the need, and that takes some time. You can still email me if you have any questions specifically about that, or if this is not clear. I'd love to talk to you all about it, because this is something that is a big deal. Thank you, Teresa, so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. Right. Let's see. Do we have any other questions here? Let me see here. It's done.
Do you want me to launch a poll for,
Yes, that would be great. Let me see. So yes, I'm trying to figure out how to. All right. Okay. So let's get some conversation out there going. What's one section of the proposal you haven't even opened up yet? I know for me, I can tell you for me, but I'll wait. Tell you what I haven't even looked at yet. Okay. So we'll wait a couple of minutes. And let me see, while you're doing that, I'll see if I have any questions. Let me do done. About the objectives, and funny you should mention that because that is the section. Yeah, I mean, I have not touched the objective section except talking to y'all. And a client asked, well, where can we see the objective section? I said, no, not really. I mean, I don't want to be mean or anything, but I've got to get a better handle on your needs section. I could do a template, but sometimes in the template, I have to fill in examples of stuff that should be in the needs section. So that gets to be more confusing. So I don't work on the objective section. Thanks y'all for participating until that needs section is done, until I've collected the needs section in the spreadsheet and we're feeling good about it. And then we start drafting the narrative. Okay. Then dead last is the objective section. I mean, I can start looking at the format, and I've shared with some of y'all who attended our grant writing workshops for both EOC and Talent Search. I've shared sample formatting, from the Upward Bound competition of the format. Here's the objective. It's ambitious, yet attainable, and breaking down the reasons for that. It's bringing up stuff from the needs section to show that that's ambitious. And then it's attainable though by giving you a preview of what's going to happen or what we're going to offer service wise. So the objective section to me is like a summary. It's a review of the needs section and bringing up applicable stuff, not everything, because you don't have room. Or again, your chance to make the readers feel the need completely is in the needs section. Then you remind them of certain parts of relevant, applicable need data that need to be reminded of when you're talking about setting the numbers or the percentages for certain objectives. So you filter from the needs section just those specific lines of need that relate to the objective. And you use that as your argument as to, look, let me remind you why this objective that I'm proposing, why it's so ambitious. And then you turn around and say, but don't worry. However, it's going to be attainable because these are the list of services that we're going to provide you that fall under this objective. So you see, I almost have to have the needs section done and the plan of operation done in a sense. And then the objective section is the document or the section that puts it together. Okay, it's a review of your needs section, a preview of the objective section. So it's hard to do a template ahead of time because I kind of have to know what the situation is in your needs section in regards to specific types of mention of need that need to fall under each objective. Remember, your objectives, you know them. You need to bring up or stress the baseline for those objectives. You first want to tell the reader what your baselines are in the needs section, and then you can copy and paste that sentence to put into the objective section as the first bullet as to why an objective is ambitious, and then you can sprinkle in some other items that fall under that. So you organize it so it makes sense to you and you sell it to the reader so that it flows. Okay. Initially, you may be thinking, I don't know how to make this flow. Make an argument as to why that additional piece of data should fall under, showing that the objective for example, getting students to go to college. Well, number one, I'm going to tell you what it currently is without us, without Talent Search or without EOC helping. This is what the current college enrollment rate is. Okay, great. That should be the first thing that's in the objective section. But then after that, well, what are some other things? Like for Talent Search, we would mention the low rate of students applying for admissions or financial aid. in EOC, you might mention the high rate of people who don't have, even who don't have a high school diploma, that's why it's so ambitious. So it kind of all depends on when you've collected. So it looks like I'm right on board with that, the objectives as well. So don't feel bad about that. That's the last thing I work on. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. And so again, you have to, on your objectives, you have to, I cannot answer this until you display and give me your baseline and where you want to go. And it has to be ambitious yet attainable. Maybe if you're thinking more realistic, it might not look very ambitious if you make it if you try to be realistic, but it all depends on the numbers. So if you could send me some numbers, I could give you my feedback on that, but I don't want to say one way or another, yeah, keep it realistic, because what the heck does that mean, right? We need to have a conversation looking at your numbers, or making your case, I want to go up to from this to this, and it's ambitious, but then it's also going to be attainable. So that's your argument. Do you think Talent Search submission would be early 2016? Therefore, all the work we've done and the needs will need to be updated with the new 24-25 data from the schools? I don't know. I mean, now I'm hearing that, I don't know if anyone else has heard anything differently, but I did hear somebody say that Maureen said that, oh, it's probably going to be January, February 2026, like it always has been, right? But, they put SSS through the ringer and had them turn it in July. So we were thinking, oh my God, whatever happens to SSS will happen to all the TRIO programs, because usually SSS is the guinea pig. So we were initially preparing for the July date. And then, with everything going on, it is quite realistic that it'll happen in January, possibly February. But all the work you've done, you had to do it because you want to make sure you have an idea about where you're standing with your needs section data. So don't feel like it's been wasted time, because you had to go ahead and collect to get a gauge where you're at. You can go back and forth right now. Worst case scenario is that you might have to, if you have the opportunity, update it, but I don't know if you'll have some of this updated information by January. It may be that you're going to be, the best you can do is 23-24 data. I don't know if you'll have 24-25. If you do, just update your tables. Hopefully you see a trend and that they will continue to show the need, right? But I don't think you're going to have everything for 24-25. Maybe some things, but not all your data sources, because you're using target schools, you're using state data, you're using national data, and they are all on different timelines. So some of your data will have to stay the same, and that's why I always put the timing depending on the source, because they're not coming from the same office, right? So what you want to say is this is the latest available data for each comparison area. The latest available data, and just keep checking. If you get the data, update it, but at least that's a minor annoyance. What you don't want to do is wait until you are thinking, oh, we heard it's due in January. Okay, we'll wait till the 24-25 data comes out to start collecting. No, you want to do a collection right now. Even with SSS, what we did is we started looking at purposely data that would be too old for the proposal, but it was the latest available data when we started working on it, to see if there was a trend, or to see if we were talking to the right person and running the right reports within the institution to get the information that we needed. And we told the client, look, we'll tell IR, or we'll tell them directly that, look, we're going to probably make them run this data again, but we're using the data that we have available now to see if we can show a need. Okay. Or do you have the reports in place? Are we talking to the right people where we can find that? And we let them know, hey, IR, don't get mad at us if we're going to ask you to run it as soon as you have the latest available data for the institution. It's a practice run, but things are looking good in the sense that we're showing need, or if they weren't showing need, we're like, okay, we hope that the updated data shows the need, because the data that's going to be too old for the proposal is not showing. It's a gauge. So don't think of it that way. Think of it like you're on top of it. You're actually ahead of the game. Even if you might be able to update some of the data, so be it. But at least you're not working in the dark. And yes, you know, that's the way it is. Yeah, someone else is gonna have to, see this through, but you can have it set up and you can say, look, I'm leaving, but this is the latest available data. I would recommend probably that the target school, if you're Talent Search, that possibly the graduation, the 12th grade graduation rate, the enrollment rate, the number of high school counselors, that be double checked to see if that's available. If it's unofficial, you don't want to add it, but you want to wait till they have official data. It all depends. And some schools drag their heels on these numbers, right? And some schools have them right away. But at least right now, you kind of have a feeling where you're going with this. And if it were due tomorrow or early fall, you'd have the right data. Okay. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think you're in good shape. Just put that on. Hey, when I left, this is how it was. Okay. I was told my objective for post-secondary enrollment was not ambitious enough last time. I knew that it would be hard enough to make even the way it was based on the past. Guess what? I've lost points on that twice already. So again, where did you, if you can give me some examples, if you can dig up or just, what was your baseline and what did you propose? Was it a 10, did you state it was a percentage increase or a percent increase, like percentage point increase? And sometimes that's a difference. So if it was, if your baseline was 30, that 30% of students go to college from and I don't know if you're EOC or Talent Search, if only 30% go, then I would go no higher than 15 percentage points to make it 45%. From 30 to 45%. That's without looking at any of the other data. And then I'd have to state my case. This is ambitious because of the following reasons that were in the needs section related to college enrollment. But it's going to be attainable because look at the specific services that we're going to provide. This, and this as listed on their individual service plan. And case management, and again, I don't know if you're EOC or Talent Search, but make a case for it. So I'm curious if you don't mind, you can email me and we can talk about your percentages and I can tell you where I either agree or disagree because it looks like they did it twice already. That's 2 funding cycles. So I'm thinking that, okay, so they told you didn't go high enough. And it may be, because I used to do this too, I was using percentage change and the readers weren't getting it. Even though it was correct math, they weren't seeing it as being high enough. They would go, oh, from 30 to 35%, that's only 5. And it actually, when you do the math for percentage increase, it's actually, closer to a 20% increase. So again, maybe it's the way it's being presented to them. And sometimes you have to actually do the math for them and keep them on point and say, don't look over here, don't look over here, don't use your definition, reader. I want you to think, I'm going from 30 to 45%. That's a 15 percentage point increase. Percentage point increase. And I put the definition. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And they stop thinking about the other math about, oh, okay, from 15 to 30 is 100% increase, right? No, it's a 15 percentage point increase. So you see, you could sell it both ways. So let's see how that was displayed. And that's why the objective section is very tricky in the sense that you wait to do it last and you have to be very careful the way you word it and the math that you utilize and do the math for them so they see it your way instead of trying to say, I don't think about it. I want to use my definition. No, you're going to use my definition because this is my proposal, my definition. I want you to see that I'm using percentage point increase, not percentage increase. 2 different math. Okay. Let's see here. We've got about 15 more minutes. Anybody else have any other questions? Do we have another poll, Donna? I'm looking at some of the chat here. Please try to pull your data for whatever the last school year is or the last census date that you have. Do it now, even if this thing's not going to be due for another year, because you need to know where you stand. You need to know if you've got to dig deeper or refine your needs, your target area to be, redefine it. You don't want to wait until you've got the latest information you could dig at and then struggle showing a need there. struggle now so that you won't struggle later. So again, challenges collecting the need data. Have you had any challenges collecting data for your partners or institution this time around? Right? It should be everyone. I mean, it's getting harder and harder. Some people are telling me with Talent Search, I used to be able to talk to someone in the office and at the district office or even the target school and get the information. And now I have to do an MOU, or now anyone out there, I don't know if you want to cop to this, but anyone out there is your target school is like saying, no, you need to submit a formal request before we give you that information. And I'm like, okay, some information I know I need to get directly from them. But most of it, I can go around and go to the state website. It's public information. Now, if I want to get the latest information on the graduating class of 2025, then I might have to go directly to the school rather than wait for it. And I get that, but for the most of the information is out there. You just have to look for it. And again, the website says there's 6 counselors, but there's not 6 counselors at the high school. You have to communicate with somebody. And now people are saying, well, in order for us to share that information, who are you? We have to have a formal sort of disclosure of information. And some people are telling me that the target schools want to see the proposal too. And I'm like, okay, but thank you. We're about 50-50. Some people said no, some people said yes. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're going to like what they see. What they shouldn't, I mean, you're trying to show a need, right? And all the questions basically make it so you have to show the readers that the target schools, the students are going to target schools that are struggling, okay, to have the same academic achievement or college enrollment rates as the state, district, state, or national rates. I mean, that's the whole premise of the needs section. So they need to be prepared that it's going to not look favorable on the target schools, right? And then you can tell them, oh, they're like, well, who reads this? Well, readers from, well, it's going to the Department of Ed. Oh my gosh, they start to worry about that. I don't know if anyone's had an issue with that, but you can't have it both ways. You can't expect for us to have a beautiful, high achieving across the board and make the cut. They're looking for schools that are not making the cut. So they got to understand that ahead of time. Okay, that's the purpose of it. I do have some clients where there's a couple of schools that are not showing the need at all. They're doing better than the state. And my recommendation is, if we can afford to not include them, you're going to have to make a decision to not include them as an official target school. But if they're in the target area, you can still continue to serve them, but you cannot make them official target school unless you're prepared to lose points on several of these tables, because on half of the tables, that school is doing better than the state. They don't have a need. They don't have a need. So that target school may be very happy to see their stats. They'll be like, oh, great, we're doing wonderful. Yeah, you are, but you can't be part of our Talent Search official target schools because you're doing great, Does sustainability have to mean cash from the institution? Can it be staff time or facilities? Great question. It does not have to be that. And you know what? They should ask, if I had a chance in revamping the questions, one of the questions would be, hey, how does your agency or your college plan to sustain this program? Should federal funding discontinue, or how are you going to incorporate it, or how are they going to take ownership of it? I think that's a great question. That's actually a question that we have to answer for all the grants that we write for the department, except for TRIO. So if they were to change the question, that would be something interesting, right? Sustainability. But here we're probably talking specifically in the applicant and community support section, where there's a part where the first part is where we have to talk about everything that the agency and the institution will provide to the project at no cost. So that part, it doesn't mean sustainability, but just in this case, survivability, if we need to just use it now, because a lot of the funds will be used for personnel and fringe. I have one client where we have very little money in any of the categories, and that's something we need to talk about. As I was like, you have enough money to pay for your staff and your fringe, but I don't see any money anywhere else. They goes, oh, we use carryover. I said, but in the grant, I can't use carryover. You start over. So what are we going to say? So in that case, they're going to have to use a combination of cash, possibly, direct funding for positions or for certain supplies like the computers, or curriculum, or for part-time, or a part of a advisor's salary, possibly, or facility use, yes, or access to facilities, obviously office space, right? So they don't have to pay rent, things like that. So that's why I say it's really tough for the new people that are going for brand new funding. That's why I always tell them, do the budget. Within 10 minutes of doing the budget, you will see if you can afford this program. Because if you're going for brand new funding, brand new, your college or agency is going to have to put hard cash into this, either funding a position or funding all the travel supplies and all that stuff, because the federal funds will only cover personnel and fringe if you're lucky. Okay. So let's see here. So the CPPs, again, I'm not thinking about the CPPs or the GEPA, except to know that the CPPs are going to be different. I saw that potential too. I'm thinking maybe parental involvement, maybe AI, but I'm not going to worry about those until I know for sure what they are. Because I learned my lesson years ago that I prepared for what, they even put in the draft, Teresa, I don't know if you remember, but they put in the draft for Talent Search and EOC in the draft RFP. We used to have draft program applications, right? And they put what they said the CPPs would be. And so I know it was a draft. I know it. I heard it. So I spent all my time and effort, Teresa, working on those and getting them, as I was working on the proposal, looking at this, trying to make it match. And it was kind of a headache trying to do that. That's why I always say, hey, write your proposal first. Don't even think about the CPPs, because those get your 100 points with your proposal. Okay. And then, okay, I got that done. Let me look at these CPPs. Okay. Let me see what I can revise or add, or how I can, if I need to put it in there. But it's tough to do both at the same time. But anyway, back to my story. What happened was when they put out the real RFP, they totally switched those CPPs. And we caught on to it. We were like, oh man, oh my God, I spent all this time and effort, and we had webinars about it and all that. Now we got to scramble around. Well, I shouldn't have complained that much, because at least we were aware of it. Did you know there was a whole bunch of people that literally did not get the memo and turned in the wrong CPPs? So that's why, Teresa, I don't want to I don't want to speculate, right, on what they are, because we can get in trouble.
Yeah, that's the last thing I do.
Exactly. And Teresa's my CPP expert. So she's the one, and I say, look, Teresa, yes. So yes, it's the last thing you do. I don't know, Teresa, if you can, I don't know if I remembered correctly what was on that list of potential, just overall topics. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Teresa.
I do recall, and so there's three that they published, and one of them is around literacy, which seems to be the only one that's relevant. There was that could be relevant, particularly for talent search, because maybe tutoring in English and things of that sort. But the other one was around school choice. And I can't remember what the third one was, but they were really a far stretch in my mind. My mind can't go that far, I guess, with
Right,
regards to how we would actually be able to respond to that one. But the only one that seemed to be relevant of the three that might not be a stretch would be something regarding literacy.
okay,
But that's really it. They only published three, so
right, okay.
usually there's about 15.
Right. So Beverly, is that the same list, or did you see a list? I saw a longer list that included AI and parental involvement. But if you could get me that list, Teresa, I'll upload it in the
Okay.
Google Drive so people can see. And Beverly too, if you have that list of three. But yeah, literacy. So who knows what they're going to do, but don't worry about that right now. You worry about your data collection. Right now, budget, data collection started, but also don't forget that applicant and community support. That's a big deal too. There's two sections I cannot do at the last minute: the need section and the applicant and community support. If I had to, I could crank out the rest of the proposal in a weekend. Not that I want to do that, but you see, because I can kind of control all those pieces, but I can't control the need section. I can't control the applicant and community support section. And the other section is probably the budget. I can't make up salaries, no matter how much I want to. Now here again, we come back to the, we get data for 2025 in December or January. Can we not use info from 2024 to start? If that data is more consistent? Yes, you definitely need to start now. Our state has so much info published. It seems a waste of time for both myself and my schools to try to get that info early from the schools when it may or may not end up on the state website. If it's not officially published, is it worth the time and effort? Again, it doesn't have to be officially published, okay? There's no definition of where you have to get your data from. It could also all be qualitative. It's not strong if it's all qualitative. I would disagree, right? Some things are qualitative, some things are quantitative, but definitely because of the timing, all I'm saying is you need to find out how these, especially if you're already in an area, right? You're an existing talent search or EOC. You need to quickly touch base with, if you want to keep everything the same, then you need to start showing yourself in a spreadsheet that everything is still showing need. Whether it's data that you can use now or possibly data that will have to be updated whenever this is due. Right now, you need to do a needs assessment. It's almost like, I compare it to, well, I'm not sure when we'll have to turn this bid in, but I want to keep an eye on what it's going to cost me if it was due next week or in 2 weeks. I want to know what, in this case, I want to know what target schools, based on the current information I have, are not showing a need right now, and to flag them and to maybe dig around and say, why are we not showing a need here? Let's have some time. We've got some breathing room to find out. And we can always say, well, let's hope that when we get the official data that it's worse, which means it's better for us, right? Or keep an eye on that. I would rather know preliminary, initially what's going on. I'd rather get a good feeling that even if it's data I know I'm gonna have to update, I don't see it's a waste of time. I see it's checking in and saying, okay, that school still shows need. That's good. Okay, not a problem. These two are not problem. I wonder what's happened there. Let's double check. Okay, flag that. Let's see when we get the official updated data. Hopefully it'll change, it'll show a need. But if it doesn't, here's our plan B and C. So you see, you don't wanna wait, drum roll please, and say, ta-da, this is what it is, and start looking at it. No, you want to, as soon as possible, act like the needs section is due at the end of the summer, and go by everything you have as the end of summer. It's not a waste of time. If anything, it'll just tell people, look, I may have to come back to you, but we're doing a trial run of, if our data is showing need right now. I don't see it's a waste of time at all. I think it gets you on your toes. It makes you more aware. It also emotionally and stress. I get more stressed with my clients that I've asked for their needs section initial, and I don't see it. I said, let's take a look at it. We need to have a conversation. And that's exactly what we're doing right now, is looking at their needs section, what they've collected so far. And we're letting them know these two schools, possibly you're going to have to bless them and let them go, or be prepared to go ahead and take a hit, if you have to keep them. And they go, well, maybe it'll get worse. And I said, maybe, but you've been put on notice. Okay. You don't want to have that conversation later. You want to have it now. Okay. I want to know now if there's going to be a problem. I don't want to wait. It's not a waste of time. I promise you. It makes you less stressed. Okay. All right. So yes, that's a list you saw. Okay, great. We'll do that. Thanks, Teresa, for being on there, because I was looking at someone said the third CPP was returning education to the state. So yeah, so how are we going to make that relevant to our proposal? So literacy sounds like it may be the way to go there. Okay, so we are right at 1:01, perfect timing, y'all. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Thank you all. Check us out on our website. We've got a lot of, we're going to be starting our on-demand proposal writing workshop for both Talent Search or EOC. Those of you that have already attended, you'll get another link so you could go in there, and now we're going to offer it as a course. So when you go in there, you'll be able to have the recordings that you have. We've done some updates. So maybe you attended ours last year, or maybe even in February. We recently had one a couple of weeks ago. So they're going to be slightly updated. Those of you who had already paid will have access to the on-demand recording where we set up as a course, so you can break it up into chunks and pieces. You'll also be able to download the transcript if you want to go ahead and put it into something so you can get a summary, in addition to the links and all that good stuff. Those of you that have not, you'll be able to go ahead for these fees here to go ahead and log on and have the on-demand recording, and we'll update them as we go along. Thanks everyone so much. Thank you for joining us. Gayla, good to see you. Leticia, Beverly, all my Eileen, all my friends. Hopefully I'll see you guys in Chicago. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much. And Donna, as always. And thank you all for participating, asking some really, really great questions. If if you didn't get a clear response, if you'd like to follow up, you can email me. I'll put my email in I think you guys know how to get in touch with me. Put my email address in the chat, and we can talk about the rigorous secondary school program of study. It's such a headache. I would love to spend a whole session just talking about it with y'all, but here's my email address. Thank you all. Have a great week. See you next week. Thanks, Teresa.